Welcome to this week's show, the Crazy Gentleman Podcast. I am your host, the Crazy Gentleman, and this week's show is a dream come true. This week's guest is Ron Finch, the legendary motorcycle builder, artist, and all-around awesome guy. But first, this week's show is brought to you by Bare Knuckle Performance, bareknuckleperformance.com, home of the highest quality parts for your FXRs, Dynas, choppers, Sportsters, baggers, anything American V-twin. Paul's got parts for you. Go hit him up, 100% American made. I'm sure he's running a sale of some sort for 4th of July. This episode comes out July 5th. So you might be too late, but you never know. You never know. Either way, happy birthday, America. And also shout out to Mikey at Nine Finger. He is the top dog fabricator at Bare Knuckle. And go check him out, Nine Finger Fab. He makes all of the most innovative tools for your American V-twins. I think really just Harley, but there's a few other little applications in there. But shout out to Mike, and thank you so much for your support also. And you're crushing it on the FXR Tour build. That thing is insane. You are insane for taking that much on in such a short period of time. Good luck, Mike. I know it's going to be awesome. Also brought to you by Kenny's House of Horsepower. Whatever you need, man. High performance engines to plain old restos. Kenny's got you covered wherever you are. Kenny will hook you up with the shipping deal of the century. Get your engine there. It ain't no big thing. Who else we got? My man, Evo Jesus. He is the one who made this road trip possible. Thank you for letting me stay at your place. And also letting me be a guest on your show. And his episodes will be coming out in the coming weeks as I deliver episodes from this road trip. Go check him out at the bumpshopbackroom.com for all of the coolest vintage finds and the only place to get your Crazy Gentleman merch. And also, if you want to support me and this show, go hit up the Patreon, the Crazy Gentleman Podcast on Patreon. The links are also on my Instagram. And who else do we got going on? Twisted Road Motorcycle Rentals. Go punch in code word crazy at checkout for 20% off. And anything more than a 4-day rental is you get a day free. Anyone who doesn't know, Twisted Road is like the Airbnb of motorcycle rentals. You can rent whatever bikes you want. You just punch in whatever zip code you're in around the world, and it'll show you all the bikes that are available that people put up. So you can get anything from a bagger to a sport bike. It's pretty cool. I think one of the cooler parts of it is like if you have a Sportster or a sport bike and you want to go on like a long road trip or even just a camping weekend with your friends, just go rent a bagger. Like, you know, for less than the hotels would have cost you anyway. You can just get a bagger for the weekend. So anyways, pretty cool. I'm very excited to be working with them. And also Lexan Dash Moto on these road trips. The music in my helmet always keeps the road exciting. Keeps my heart pumping. Punch in the code word crazy at checkout for 15% off at lexan-moto.com. And you can listen to this pod. Maybe you're listening in your helmet right now. I don't know. If you are, it better be on a Lexan. Also, go check out my man, Evan Simbita, SimbitaCustomKnives.com and Simbita_custom_knives on Instagram for the highest quality outdoor hunting and kitchen knives. And for your fishermen. He makes all kinds of fishing knives too. He makes all the coolest stuff. Go check him out. Premium materials, 100% made in the USA. Like everyone I endorse, all made in the USA. And yeah. Alrighty, off to the show. Dude, for anyone who knows me, knows when I started this show, one of the things I had talked about from day one, people asked like who I'm gonna have on or whatever. My number one dream guest was always Ron Finch. Since I found out about Ron like 20 years ago, I've been a big fan of him. And I always said, I gotta go visit his place. I always heard how legendary it was from other people, and you know, like I bought his video back in the day. He's just like the #1 guy in this industry for me. I think he's just always done the coolest stuff. I modeled parts of my earlier life like Ron's life. To me, I've always looked up to him. But yeah, look how professional that is, dude. I didn't even turn my own phone off. All right, let's turn that off. Yeah, so I'll paint the picture quick too. I wound up getting strep throat right before this road trip. And I was on the road a few weeks for these shows that I'm rolling out now. I had strep throat, and I also got bit by a tick, and the tick was in me for 4 days. So I went through another little bout of Lyme's disease. I ran a fever for a while. I was like dead on the couch for a week. I was on all the heavy duty antibiotics. Anyone who saw me on this road trip, that's why I really wasn't drinking on this road trip. I was on crazy ass antibiotics. And I wound up leaving late for this road trip. Almost 2 days late. I really shouldn't even have left when I left, but I knew I had to go. I didn't have any podcast scheduled, but I knew I wanted to just make some shit happen. This is how I do all my road trips. I don't schedule anything. I just start trying to put the puzzle pieces together the day I leave, and then between gas stops and shit like that. So the first one I scheduled, the only thing I did know was I was staying with Rodney. So I knew I could do a show with him, and then while I was there, he wanted me to be on his show. But I left with a fever, on medication, still dying, but I'm like, I gotta go. I wanted to line something up earlier that week with Baker, but I didn't have anything lined up. But we were talking at that point. So once I was actually on the road, is when I finalized the thing with Baker. And then all the rest of these shows on this road trip just started happening. Ron Finch being one of them, though. I've been dreaming of this for 5 years. Meeting Ron and going to his place, I've been dreaming of for 20 years. But podcast-wise, he was always like this dream guest of mine. Always wanted to have him on the show. From day one. It's like on my list of people, I'm like, God will do it. So, anyways, man, the point is, first off, I got to thank Scott at Baker and the whole team at Baker for making this happen. Huge thank you to them. And my point is, don't make fucking excuses. If you got a dream, just go do it, dude. Don't sit on the couch. Don't say you're too tired. Don't say you're too sick. Stop. Don't make excuses. If you know you got to go do something, just fucking go do it. Just go do it. It might take forever. I mean, I take forever with everything. I mean, this show took 5 years for me to just get to Michigan. But one way or another, figure it out, make it happen. I mean, it's like, you make your own luck. That's the point of all this. I kind of got lucky, but it never would have happened if I just said, screw it. I'm just going to start the road trip off on the Tennessee end of things. Like I knew I was going to Tennessee too. That was my only other goal besides Michigan. But before this road trip was over, dude, I was canceling on people. I had so many podcasts lined up. So the point is, man, I got my dream guest out of it. This was the coolest show, the coolest day of my life. I'll never forget it, man. And I'm excited to present it to you guys. And a huge shout out to Ron and his wife Ruth. Damn, it's a day I'll never forget, and I appreciate everything they did for me. And they say never meet your heroes, but I've met a whole lot of my heroes at this point so far. And I haven't had one disappoint me. And Ron Finch certainly does not disappoint. He did not disappoint. And it's a lasting memory that I'll appreciate for the rest of my life. And I don't want to be too long-winded on this thing, but thanks to everyone involved. Thanks, Ron. And thank you guys for all your support. Yeah, it's been a hell of a ride, man. See you next week. Finch, man. This is a crazy one. Thank you for coming, and thank you for inviting me to your bar.
Well, yeah.
Your outdoor bar by the pond.
Yeah, the dancing girls aren't here yet. They never are, you know.
Well, I think they'd get a little chafed up on these stripper poles here.
Yeah, the stripper poles don't work very well. But speaking of those, this friend of mine had a tree cutting place, and so he saved these cedar posts, you know.
Yeah.
For me, you know, and they were on top of the hill, and I brought them down and dug some holes and put them up. And then there's this bar over here. It went out of business, but anyways, they were having a biker thing, and so he gave me all these corrugated metals, you know.
Yeah.
They were left over from his thing. He was trying to bribe me. He thought I should ride my bike over there on bike night and stuff. And I don't know. He gave me one beer. You can't have you. Well, if you're going to bribe me, more than one beer and some tin. But nevertheless, the tin worked out. And then this other guy, friend of mine, he works for this guy, and this pretty high-rolling guy. So he hasn't put up all his cedar up on a wall. And about 2 weeks later, the guy walks in, tear that stuff down. That ain't no good. I want tongue and groove. So he had enough to build a shed for himself, plus give me all the cedar, you know, which was pretty cool, you know.
Yeah.
And then this was black walnut. I was always going to sand it down and make it nice, but it fits the way it is. It's fine, you know. That would have been a lot of work. But so anyways, now I got a wider bar, because originally it was just fine. It's underneath there, but whatever.
Just like
and
12,
so it's just a good place to hang out, you know.
Yeah, this is awesome, man. This whole place has me speechless. It's pretty cool. What year did you get to this property?
It was about 22 years ago.
Okay. Where'd you originally start?
I started in my garage when I was married to my first wife. And it was in what I call Mass, Kentucky, but it's Hazel, Kentucky, or, you know, it's one of them little burbs of Detroit. And so I was just in this little one-car garage, and I had an oil stove and stuff, and I'd spray, no exhaust fan, no nothing. I'd be spraying, and I'd open up the door, and the overspray would just roll out, you know?
Yeah.
And the neighbors would always call the cops, you know? You know. And so the cops would come out. I got to know the cops. I'd sit out in the cop car, and we'd talk about whatever, me and the cop. And then, you know, and then they had the same thing. And a little week later, he's calling the cops again. I'm sitting out in the cop car talking to my cop buddy, you know. And so that's where I really started. Then I had a little shop on University in Pontiac. I didn't have really any money at the time. I couldn't afford to have a house, and that. It was after I was separated from the first one, you know. And so that's where I was. And then it was the thing. I was the right place at the right time. Shoppers were just coming in, and I was manufacturing Springer front ends and banana seats, and I was importing some stuff from England, and I was just getting going. It took me a while, like any business. And then I started doing a lot of paint jobs. I was doing a couple of paint jobs just about every week. And then the cops would come in. Okay.
Ron, I got a couple questions here. One question. The first garage where it was just a small garage and paint was rolling out, that was the place you first originally started painting in?
That's where I started painting.
What year was that?
I don't know. I have no time recollection. It would have been...
Can you hit me with a decade, like 50s, 60s?
It would have probably been 50 years ago.
50 years ago?
I
Okay.
know.
So like, no, it must have been longer than that. We were looking
I'm
at
85
pictures.
now, and 50, I'd have been 35. So it would have been a little bit longer.
Right.
Yeah, give or take.
So early
years.
60s?
Yeah,
Early
well,
60s?
65 is when I was in the shop where I was sleeping on the workbench. So it was before 65.
Wow. Do you think you started in the 50s?
You
think it could have been 58,
I was
59?
born in 39, So I started when I was around, we'll just say 20 for a round figure, so 39, 49, 59. Yeah, so it'd be 60s, you know.
Wow. Okay. Um, Back then, okay, this is my other question, then I'll get back to this. Do you remember what you were charging for paint jobs back then?
It wasn't a lot.
Yeah.
I didn't have no stock of paint, so I have to, you know, buy a quart of paint and a reducer and, you know, stuff just one at a time because it's all I could afford, you know. So I was charging the people for the paint, you know, and then probably around $200 or something like that, you know.
For a whole bike.
Yeah. Well, at the time, all I was doing was shoppers. So there was a rear fender, oil bag sometimes, and a gas tank, you know.
Okay.
And real choppers didn't have front fenders.
Right.
So.
They still don't, Ron.
They don't. Right.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, speaking of that, let's set the record straight for all the young kids listening. What does Ron Finch define a chopper as? Tell everyone what a real chopper is.
It was a thing where you try to take as much stuff off of a bike as you can and still have it run. And it's always been a thing where it's like weighted, you know, against horsepower. So if you can lighten up the bike and you're a skinny guy, you got an advantage over the heavy bike and the fat guy. You know?
Right.
So basically, you would make it look as cool as you could. I mean, at the time, everybody was going to. Very few people had front brakes, and then Hallcraft came out with this little coffee can brake that would hold you on a hill, but it's not going to stop you. But it was legal, you know. And some people would go to a hog wheel. You'd lace your hub and spokes. There's this company called Buchanan that supplies spokes. You could take a Triumph hub and lace it to a Harley rim, and you know have a fat tire. Not real fat, not like the stupid ones that they were doing about 10 years ago, but that's the different story there.
Right.
So it was that, and then you'd go to a smaller rear fender, and then at that time I was making these banana seats, and a lot of people went to them. They set you down a little lower, plus they were way cooler looking than a great big pillow that you're sitting on.
Like, at what point do you think a bike becomes a chopper besides just just taking a factory bike and stripping it down? I wouldn't consider that a chopper.
No.
But, like, at what point do you do you got to cut frame?
Well, I mean, it would be nice to have a Springer front end.
Yeah. And
some type of bars, you know, whether it's just a 10-inch bar or something rather than just the stock bar.
Mm-hmm.
And the gas tanks, I mean, it was almost mandatory to have like a peanut tank or banana tank or, you know, whatever, something small. Right. Only 2 gallons. Couldn't go very far, but it didn't matter. You were cool, you know?
Yeah. So you moved to the second shop outside of that small garage.
Yeah.
Which was also in Pontiac, you said?
No, the other one was in Madison Heights, actually.
Okay.
But I always called it Madison Tucky because it wasn't right up there it wasn't a ghetto, but, you know, whatever.
Right. It wasn't the nicest area.
No.
Okay.
But then, like I said, then I moved there to Pontiac, and it was kind of okay at first. Yeah, I wasn't very well known or anything. But then the cops, you know, they figure that I'm chopping bikes. Well, if I was chopping bikes, so I must be stealing bikes, you know. Every week, at least once a week, they'd come in and check every serial number in the whole place, you know. Everything's legal. Well, I'm not quite as dumb as I look, you know. I mean, if I was stealing bikes, I sure wouldn't have them there. I'd have them in the cops' garage or somewhere, you know.
Right.
And so... and then I'd park the bike on the sidewalk. Oh, you get a ticket for that. Put up a sign. You gotta take that sign down right now. You don't have a permit. Take a sign down. Build another one. Oh no, it's too close to the road. You can't do that. You know. And then it was just one thing after another. I want to build an addition. Oh well, you can get started. Well then, Joe Blow, he's out of town. we'll see what happened with Joe Blow. Well, they decide that I got to put the building on stilts so there's parking underneath because I'll have more customers. Stupid, you know. So that was the final straw. That's when I moved out to the country. Everybody says, how you can be in the middle of nowhere, Ron, you know, because that's where I'm going. I'll be fine, you know.
Right.
And, you know, build it, they'll come, you know.
Right.
And they did. And then eventually it started getting built up. It was farmland when I bought it.
Was that the shop you said you slept on? You slept at?
No, that was the first one.
Okay.
That's when the cops was all there. All the time.
Okay. How long were you there? You said you were staying.
I was there like
you literally sleep on the workbench.
About 8 years.
Right. About 8 years.
Yeah.
And you said you literally slept on the workbenches.
Oh yeah.
You were living in that shop.
Yeah, I didn't have a choice.
Right.
I didn't have no money, you know.
Right.
But at the time, it was great. This one guy that worked for me, he was the organ player for. I get it. That guy. And anyways.
For a band?
Bob Seger, you know.
He was Bob Seger's organ player?
Yeah, so he didn't have a driver's license, so his mother would drop him off at my place, and then Bob would come in every day and get him, and they'd go play at this 300 bowl. And so then they'd throw everybody out of the bar except for me and the band, you know. So they'd be practicing, and they'd leave the bar open, and I didn't take advantage of it. I might have a couple beers, and I'd go back to my workbench at 4 o'clock in the morning or so, and, you know, go to sleep, and, you know. But it was really a good time then. Cause
you ever build a bike for Bob Seger?
No.
Okay. Are you guys buddies?
We were at the time, and then, you know, he's very famous now, and he still knows who I am. A friend of mine invited him to my birthday party, and he said he might come if he doesn't have another engagement, but he did, which I'm sure he can go anywhere he wants, you know.
Right.
Well, anybody can go anywhere they want, but
right,
you know.
Right. This is still America.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So I didn't think we'd roll into it this quick. Well, one of my other questions was, have you ever had any celebrity clientele or anyone that ever called you either for a bike build or some customization or paintwork or art commission that you were just blown, like you
it depends.
You thought it was fake or something?
How famous you want to be, you know.
Well, I would say to you.
You know,
all that matters is to you.
I guess probably one of the most famous, but he wasn't that famous. His last name was Dietrich, and he was a Lion football player, you know.
You did a bike build for him?
Yeah, and I did a whole bike basically for him.
Yeah.
And he got me tickets to the game right on the 50-yard line. But I'm not a sports guy.
Right.
And so I got to pee. So I walk all the way up them stairs to get another beer, walk all the way down the stairs, and then, you know, I appreciate him giving me the ticket, but on the other hand, that's about the only football game I ever went to.
Right,
you know?
Right.
And I'm just not a sports guy, you know.
Yeah, me neither.
My grandson, he plays basketball, and he's, you know, does very well at it. Every day he's working out, and he's very fast, and
he said he's a pro, right?
You know, he's a pro.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And so that's kind of cool.
So, yeah, you were sleeping on that shop. Then you went to the country.
Yeah. Which was Joslin and Brown, which it was a gravel road in the front and a gravel road on the side, you know. And it was good, you know. I had these tombstones in the walls, and so all the people that lived around there thought I was gonna be a church that works for Satan, you know. I don't think so, you know. But anyways, then I had this glass in the tower, you know, so there was this tower with this glass, and then in the glass there was like little dolls and stuff, and people they didn't quite know what to think, you know. But it was just a thing, you know.
Yeah. When you say dolls, you mean like I mean, you got so much stuff going on in the house. Like, do you mean like mannequins or like the heads?
Just little dolls. They'd be behind the glass, like dead babies, you know.
Okay. Dude, you know what's something cool I have at my house? I love it's a little baby. It's called the smoking baby.
Okay.
Have you ever seen one of these?
Uh.
It's like it's a little baby doll about the size of this recorder,
Okay.
and it's a little baby doll smoking a cigarette.
Okay.
It's fucking hilarious, dude. Little baby in a diaper, you know.
Right.
It's fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you got all kinds of cool stuff in there. I figured maybe you came across a smoking baby.
No, don't have no smoking babies, you know.
Yeah.
I got a little, I think he's an Irish guy. He's innocent, and smoke comes out of his mouth, but he's not no baby.
An Irish guy should be drinking whiskey.
Yeah, he should.
You know?
Yeah.
I know if there was a doll of me, it'd probably be drinking whiskey.
Right, yeah. Yeah, we could have brought a bottle out here, actually, you know.
I saw when you opened the fridge earlier. I saw you. So you open the fridge and there's all the beer or whatever, and then I saw you open the freezer, and I looked over while I was taking pictures, and I saw you just really staring at a minute at that bottle,
Right.
and I was like, I wonder if he's gonna bring that to the
Well,
bar.
we could've, you know.
You know.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I wanted to encourage.
Well, we should go back, you know. I mean,
Yeah.
I think it'll still be there.
Right.
You know?
I hope so.
Mhm.
Yeah. Maybe I'll get. You know what? Maybe what I'll do when I get back home, I think it'd be a pretty cool thing to do is maybe I'll send you the smoking baby.
Oh yeah, that would be
Would you like the
bizarre.
smoking baby?
Sure.
All right.
And when
I'll
we
ship
can
you
make
to
a
you.
deal, I can have her for a couple years, and then you got to come and pick her up and
I'll-
take her back.
I'll
and that
take
gives
you.
you an excuse to come back.
I'll take you up on that deal.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't need an excuse to come back. I'll take
Well,
you up
no,
on that.
you don't,
I'll
you know.
take you up on that. Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Right. But at the price of cigarettes now, and by 2 years from now, chances are she ain't gonna be smoking very many cigarettes because I'm too cheap to be buying her cigarettes. You know?
Yeah. Someone will grub a cigarette off.
Well, if they drop it on the floor, I can pick it up.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, it's so wild too up there, like the whole display and all. That just everything is for sale. I would imagine. I think a question you get a lot is like, are you technically still in business? Are you still building bikes? Are you still making art?
I'm still in business.
Oh, I mean,
But
I can see that now.
Kind
Yeah.
of low key, you know.
Yeah. Do you like the art more nowadays than?
I still love
Then the
motorcycles.
full bike builds?
Needless to say, I still love motorcycles. You
Right.
know, I like the art. For one reason, I can do it fairly quick compared to building a bike.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you're building a bike, you know, the front end's got to be straight. Everything's got to line up. The chain's got to line up, or the inner primary with the transmission, and you know, it's you know, you got it a little more technical. Where if you're building a sculpture, it can be you know, an inch off, and nobody's gonna know the difference. You know.
Right.
Well, where a bike, everything's got to be dead nuts perfect. You know.
Right.
And so, but that's not a problem. I mean, I've done enough of them where I've got a table and I can lay everything out. And once you got, you know, the neck in position and the rear wheel in position, basically the frame can do anything you want it to do, you know,
Right.
as long as you maintain that straightness.
Do you think of what I think of in my head is like, is exactly that. If the axle plates are where they need to be and the neck is where it needs to be, you can connect the dots however you want.
Oh, you can go up, down, sideways, left, right, don't matter.
Right. Do you remember the first time you built a very eccentric bike, like what you're typically known for now?
Not really. When I first started doing it, I would take a stock frame and I'd cut it just on top of the front motor mount and the rear trans mount.
Mhm.
So I would
Just
have
keep
the
that
engine,
bottom cradle.
Yeah, so I'd have the cradle, the engine, and the trans were already mounted. And then at that point, then all you gotta do is really line up the front end and the rear wheel. So again, you can kind of do whatever you want as long as everything lines up. Because I didn't know how to install the engine and trans and all that stuff, you know.
Right.
But then once you start doing it, you just make plates and you do it, you know.
Right. What was the first groundbreaking bike that you ever built? That was let's say, known, like, what was the first bike you ever built that you would say is known for like that Finch style, that like
The very
psychedelic?
first bike where I got any recognition, and I was in quite a few magazines, whether it was Kaleidoscycle. It had a long front end on it. It was a early Norton girder originally to start with, and then I extended it, and there was holes that graduated from large to smaller, and it kind of curled, and it had scoops on one side and another type of scoop on the other side in the gas tank, and the rear fender had a little ducktail to it, and like that. That was definitely where people started paying attention to my style of bike, and then after that, there was many paint jobs I did. I was in lots and lots of magazines.
Between that and the next big like psychedelic build.
Well, that would have probably been Odin's Axle.
Okay.
Which the guy came in and said, money's no object. And, I kind of looked at him, he's an 18-year-old kid. Yeah, right. I'm sure money's no object. So I started working on it, and about 2 weeks later, I found out that his dad invented the strapless bra, and he owned a hotel and condos and stuff, and he really was a millionaire, And so the 18-year-old kid's spending daddy's money,
Right.
And
right.
So that was, I could do whatever I wanted, with that bike. I was making like these little axes that were $7.50 a piece, and then I started molding some stuff, and I literally cut the whole neck off and stretched it, when I was partway done. But it just wasn't right. I mean, I've got the opportunity to do what I feel, and so you may as well do something pretty bizarre,
Yeah.
And so, and I could spend hours just working on it,
Do you remember how long it took you to build that bike?
Not exactly, but it would have been around 3-4 months.
Wow.
And at the time,
That's pretty quick.
yeah, but I
For
didn't,
that bike.
But I didn't have a lot of work then,
So it was
and
just...
so I could, focus on that one motorcycle.
Gotcha. I believe I told you that was my favorite bike you ever built. I believe that bike was done in 1969.
Yeah.
So I got to ask you the golden question. The bike before that, you said that you thought was like the first one you ever built of your style. Do you remember what year that was? Maybe like
Yeah, it would have
65
been,
or something?
Yeah, around 65.
Wow.
And it was in, a lot of different shows. At the time, I was trying to build my reputation, so I was doing a lot of shows.
Mm-hmm.
Wherever I could afford to go, I would go,
Right, right. At that time, I mean, you're basically one of the creators of an industry that we call choppers now.
Right.
I mean, you'd be like a Godfather, a Mount Rushmore kind of guy. So when you're on the forefront of an industry like that, who do you look for your inspiration back then? Did you have any artists or people you looked up to?
Not really.
No?
I just kind of...
You were just a wild ass lone artist?
I mean, there at the time, Arlen Ness and Dave Perowitz and Sugar Bear, we were all about the same age. We all started, we were all working on choppers,
Yep.
And so, I guess, and at the time when you went to, say, Daytona, there was a lot more camaraderie. We'd always meet at the end of Main Street there, and you would get there early, and park our bikes down there, and we'd all talk and so on and so forth. And then things change as things do. I mean, it was at the time it was all mom and pop hotels and motels. I mean, and then the hotels started coming up, and the cops started coming, and it was just totally different, than when it originally started,
Right, right.
So,
do you remember the first time you met Dave Perowitz?
it would have been no, I don't remember exactly. I know that it was at Daytona, bike week.
Okay.
But I don't know. I don't have any good time recollection.
I know.
I just don't.
I keep wanting to say every time I ask you for it. You don't need to tell me a time. I didn't know if something significant at that time happened, like you guys were drinking a beer or something.
Right. No.
I always want to every time I want to ask you about a time reference.
And,
it's like the golden question.
Right. And his, his style. He was doing a lot of gold leaf with like little swirls and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, that was kind of his style of paint,
Yeah, yeah.
And then Arlen, he would, some of his paint wasn't real radical, but it was really good paint,
Yeah, his bikes were radical.
Oh, really radical,
Do you remember the first time you met Arlen?
No, I'm pretty sure I was in this Coliseum, and they were unpacking that dual engine one that he had.
Mm-hmm.
I don't.
Oh yeah, it's in the Motorcyclepedia Museum now.
Right.
It's
yeah.
I want to say they call it Double Trouble or.
I think it is Double Trouble.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was he had just built that bike. You saw
right,
him
it was
unloading.
brand new.
Wow.
So whatever year that was, is when I first. This guy's got it together.
Yeah, yeah. And God damn, did you ever hear of Arlen before that?
Not really, not too much.
Right.
Some, yeah, I was aware of him, but
But not like super familiar with his work.
And we rode together, and
Right, right.
And
did he inspire you to get into the parts business, or did you guys kind of just happen to do?
Well, that's kind of was the difference between me and him. He was more of a serious businessman as far as getting the parts and all that stuff. I was doing a few things, but my problem was if you get too carried away with that stuff, I know you can make money and all that stuff, but it was taking away my creativity. I would rather have the creativity and build a bike, a cool bike, than to be able to say, okay, now I'm selling this product, which I mean, yeah, it's a good thing for people to do if you care about the money and that aspect of it, but I never really did,
Right. For you, at all costs, the art came first?
Yeah, and I would spend the bike that I went and looked at yesterday that we bought, I made the whole, how fender tips, they used to have that little, thing comes to a peak. Well, I built like a 3-stage thing all out of sheet metal where it was a fender tip, but then it was painted, and when I painted it, a set contrasting color to the rest of the fender and stuff.
Right.
And it was like one of a kind. And I took pride in myself in doing one of a kind, rather than just, okay, well, we'll do this. That worked last time, we'll do that stuff again. I would try to always come up with a new, innovative something.
Something, yeah. Have you ever done the same thing twice?
No.
Wow.
Well, kinda. Odin's axle, these people that bought it and brought it to me, they want to know if I would want to redo it, and they left it. It was on the 4th of July, and I says they were going to leave it here 2 months. If I wanted to do it, fine. If they didn't, they'd come and pick it up,
Right.
So as it was, I figured, well, it's a pretty famous bike. It should be restored, But that one I did try to match the original because that's what they wanted,
When you did the restoration on that bike, over the years, did people change that much stuff or modify things that you had to
Not too
bring
much.
back? Okay.
What? I sold it to this guy. Well, I actually sold it to this Canadian first, and he sold it to Pete Smith that was in Lockport, New York. He had a shop called Motorcycle Supermarket, and he had like lots and lots of inventory,
Right.
And we got along great. Every time I was going that way, I'd just stop at his place. We'd ride to Syracuse together, or, wherever, And so then he had it. He was. It needed a little, to be gone through. He was going to take care of all the mechanical stuff. I was going to take care of the paint, And then he died, and, you know. And then his wife had it for a couple of years. She sold it to somebody. Whoever bought it, all they cared about was the panhead and the 4-speed, and left it sit out, you know. And I mean, the gas tank was all rusted out in the bottom, the oil bag, you know, it was not good, you know.
Right.
It was actually more work to redo it than to do it in the first place.
Right,
Because I
right.
tried to recreate what was done originally.
Right. You said Odin's Axle was like in up somewhere in Rochester, upstate New York.
Rochester, New York.
Your place here has so many of your builds, like what I call it like your personal museum. Like Dave's showroom is like his personal museum. He's got a lot of his old builds.
Right.
He's got his original build there. Anyways, did you always, all those builds, did you build them for yourself and keep them over the
No.
years, or did you buy them back?
No, everything I've got I kept.
Oh, okay, okay. So everything up there was never built. Well, I mean, there's some stuff. You told me the customer stories and stuff, but most of it was just built for you, and you're like, this is my bike.
Right, yeah.
No shit. Wow. That's interesting.
Yeah, and then I built my wife a bike, and we both ride together.
Uh-huh.
It was a Triumph, and it was called Lemon Fizz because she liked lemon,
Oh, dude, that's one of my
not
other,
lemon fizz.
it's one of my other favorite ones. you've
Yeah,
done.
right.
Yeah, I know that one.
And
It's a
so-
Triumph, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and we did a lot of riding together, and then I was in a motorcycle accident, and she sold the bike because she was afraid if something happened to me and her both, what would happen to the kids, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, you know, and I could, the guy that's got the bike now, he took very good, you know, he redid it, I repainted it and everything, and he still got it. But if he ever goes sell it, I get first dibs, so.
Okay. The sidecar that we took a ride in today,
Yes.
did you also build that so you and the wife could go for rides?
No, she don't ride with me no more.
Not at all.
No, she thinks I'm
Okay.
too crazy. I mean, I don't know, just because I speed and run red lights and stuff, I mean, I don't.
Should I tell her how much fun the sidecar is?
You can. I don't think it'll do any good, but
right,
yeah,
right,
I don't blame him for trying, and it would be a good thing, you know.
right, right. Mm-hmm. Well, fuck it, dude. Let's go on a side topic. You like Labatt now. Have you just always been drinking the same thing for the last 40 years?
No. I switch around, you know.
Okay.
I like German beer, you know. After being in Germany, I was coming back, I was drinking Hockenschorf for quite some time. And some of them beers you can't get, just go to the corner store and buy. You gotta go to a specialty store, and it ain't that special, you know.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I switch around.
I never even asked you, when you were showing me all like the family photo albums and stuff of your trips to Germany and all that, when you were over there, did you ever like did you ever go to any German motorcycle shows or get involved in the scene over there?
Yeah, 3
Do you
of
have
them.
like friends in the motorcycle industry over
Yeah,
there?
I did.
Uh-huh. Did that ever influence you over the years, or?
Well, it was just over the years. It was a thing. There was this guy, Wolfgang Schuler was his name, and he came over from Germany, and he'd go to the Big Daddy Rat, you know, shows.
Yeah,
And
Big Daddy Rock.
allegedly, if you won your class, you could go to Germany. It wasn't exactly that way, but whatever.
Mhm.
And so 3 different times he picked my bikes. And
Really?
so 3 times I went over there. And it's a big show. There was like 9 different buildings, you know. You couldn't, if you went through in one day, you couldn't see everything there. But the one area was VW's.
Just with motorcycles?
No.
Oh.
It's one was VW's, and then one was VW parts, and then there was one where there's Lamborghinis and Ferraris and that kind of thing. There was another hall that he brought everything over from America, and the hall was decorated with like the Grand Canyon and Mount Rushmore and Niagara Falls and, you know, that kind of a room. And it was all American stuff that he brought over. And then the motorcycle part, that was, they would always have a theme. Like the one time it was a circus. So it was like a 3-ring circus. So the motorcycles were around the rings, and they had mannequins of clowns and like different circus kind of stuff, you know, or carnival, you know, whatever. And they really did a great job. And then there was the swap meet area, but totally different than our swap meet. Everything's on shelves and clean and nice, you know.
Looked like a retail
not
store.
Like a bunch of stuff laying on the floor.
Yeah.
You know. And
was it American V-twin parts that they had at the swap meet?
No, it was all German kind of stuff, BMW, and you know.
Yeah.
And then they had a couple other things where it was all memorabilia kind of stuff, and then there was another one that was all like owner's manuals, not owner's manuals, but you know, like you want to work on this, that you buy that book. You know?
Like service manuals.
Like a service manual, yeah. And so it was like, you know, like say totally different than ours, you know.
Yeah. You know what's funny? When we were up in your office earlier, I wanted to ask you, when you're showing me all the models and stuff, the European thing has me thinking of this. I saw a couple of like Honda CBRs and like sport bikes, like Jap bikes, kind of. Outside of Harleys and Triumphs, have you ever got involved with any of that stuff?
Yeah, I was doing a lot of CB750s, you know. That was a popular chopper, you know.
Yeah.
And I was buying Amen frames, and you know,
Ron, tell them how the Amen frames, how they used to ship you the frames.
Oh,
back in the day.
Yeah, well, I know the guy pretty good, and there was no Coors beer around here at all. So the deal was every time I ordered a frame, he'd send me a case of Coors, you know, and I'd have it in my refrigerator. And, you know, if you came by, yeah, you can have a beer. I don't care. But then if somebody walks in the door and I don't know them, it's $5, you know, you know, because you can't get the Coors around here, you know. And he was definitely a cool guy, you know.
Yeah.
I slept in his shop a couple times when I was there. It's in North Hollywood. Yeah. And he had like 180 guns, all loaded, you know, in you know, one of the room I was staying in, plus other guns. But the coolest, he had a Gatling gun, and there was like a window here and a window here. It was right in the corner, and so some guys were trying to break in, and for some reason nobody ever tried breaking in ever again, you know.
Holy shit!
And then he'd build dune buggies and stuff and go out in the desert for a week, you know, playing around in the desert and stuff. He was a very cool guy, you know.
No shit. He sounds very Hunter S. Thompson.
Huh?
He sounds like very Hunter S. Thompson.
Yeah.
All right, were you ever a fan of Hunter S. Thompson?
I don't know that guy.
Oh my God, he was an amazing American writer, American journalist. Spent some times with the Hells Angels and wrote a book about it.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of the movie Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas?
Mm.
Oh my God!
I'm not a movie guy. I don't watch movies.
Oh, he's a very iconic American writer.
Okay.
He probably started in the late '60s, became huge in the '70s and '80s and '90s.
Okay.
And then they started making movies about him in the late '90s and the early 2000s. I think he only just died in about 2015 or so.
Okay.
He committed suicide. But he was one of the wildest Americans to ever live. I mean, he was a real wild man.
Cool.
But Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas was a movie basically about him doing a bunch of psychedelic drugs and a lot of hard drugs, really, and going to cover the Mint 400. You know, the motorcycle race out in the desert, out in Las Vegas, the Mint 400. It was a movie about that. I mean, he was a real wild man. You should, if you're ever gonna watch a movie, dude, you should watch that one.
Yeah, that would be a good one.
You would dig that. I'll write it down for you later.
Yeah, I won't remember if you don't.
Speaking of that, when we talked on the phone a couple days ago, and you said come down or whatever, and I said, oh yeah, just text me the address. and you said, "Fuck, I don't do that."
Right.
My dude, I fucking smiled ear to ear. There's
Yeah.
something nice about that, because I kind of grew up in the last generation of like without cell phones and with cell
Right.
phones, and when an older guy tells me like, "Fuck that, write it down,"
Right.
you know.
Yeah,
I kind of smile.
I still got my little
nowadays.
flip phone, you know.
Yeah.
That's it. People tell me, Ron, you gotta get a, you know, a smartphone. No, I don't. You know, this is fine.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Have you ever sent a text message?
No.
No. Fucking love that, dude. I fucking love it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
No,
That is
I don't
awesome.
do that, and I don't. If they come in, I don't look at them. You know,
Yeah.
if something comes into the studio, Bruce got a, you know, a computer thing in her office,
Yep.
and she'll tell me it's something that she thinks I should hear.
Right.
Other than that, I don't. It messes with your mind. If you're trying to create something, you're thinking about what you're doing, and then you got to think about this Yahoo on the, you know, text.
Yeah.
You know.
No, it absolutely shows, man. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I'll be happy to talk to anybody or tell anybody anything that I know. I'm not, you know, but, you know, I know in person is the best.
You're right,
you know.
right. No, and it's true. I mean, it shows in your art. You know, I mean, what's there to dispute? You know, stay focused. Like you were talking earlier about business and art and the balance of that, and fuck that, dude. Stay focused on the art. You know.
Right.
You know, I mean, generally when I disappear on these trips, I also kind of go off grid. Like we were talking earlier with the emails, and
Right.
for me to stay focused in the moment and in present time with you and suck all this in, you can't be fucking with all that stuff
Right.
at that
You
time.
know.
You can't.
And
you know.
I don't give people my cell phone number.
Mhm.
You know.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I am very much in the, let's call it the modern world. I have a smartphone, and I got
Right.
do all
Yeah.
that. I got to do all that bullshit.
Well, sometimes you
But-
have to. And
but
I
in-
mean, a lot of people in business, they have to have that. you know?
Right. But in today's world, even doing what I do, I catch shit for.
Right.
When I just go off the grid for a few weeks. I'm
Right.
like, don't call me. My wife, I've only spoken to her once since I've been here.
Right.
I've been on the road for a week, you know.
Right.
I don't want nobody talking to me.
Right.
I want to fucking go live in my own existence right now.
Right. Yeah. I get it.
Fucking
You know.
crank that motherfucker up and hit the
And,
road.
a lot
you
of you
know?
tell somebody that, they think, oh, you can't do that.
Fuck
Well, you
yeah,
can.
I can.
You can do that.
You can. Yes, you
There's no
can.
doubt in my mind you can do it. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's you know, it's like anything else. If it comes at a cost, oh fucking well.
Right.
You know. Oh well.
Yeah.
Nothing's worth my happiness, so here we are.
Right.
You
There
know?
you go. Yeah.
You know. Yeah. But and speaking of that, man, I obviously it's like my job now to go visit people and talk to people like you and all different art studios and tattoo shops and motorcycle shops, and this is the coolest fucking dream property I've ever seen.
Thank you.
This is fucking awesome, dude.
Yeah.
So much more than I thought it would be. When you started the venture of building this 22 years ago, did you think it would be as big of a thing as it is now?
No. It was just one of those things, like, I got a powder coater over at 23 Mile and Shaner, and when I go over there, there's all these granite, you know, places and stuff, and so I just started going to them, and that's how I got all this. I mean, if I had to buy all this and put patio stones or whatever, it'd be crazy, you know?
Right.
But
right.
free is a whole lot better.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's crazy too. Like you were, like the whole house. Like you were talking about the salvage and the hotels you went to and the fucking slabs of. Is that granite or marble? When
That's
you go
marble.
when you go from the kitchen to the art
That's
gallery.
marble.
Fucking wild, man. Like those slabs must have weighed a ton.
Oh, they did.
Oh my
We
god.
were moving that stuff out. There was an ex-Detroit cop that was guarding the building, and so he was a friend of mine, big guy, you know. And so he knew when they were going to come in and start doing the demo, you know.
Yeah.
So before the demo, Me and my buddies were getting a lot of stuff out of there. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Anything we wanted, we could have. You know.
Was that the same place you got the tile for the bathroom?
No,
Oh, okay.
that's totally different.
That's the coolest fucking tile I've ever seen.
I know
man.
it is cool. And the guy that, well, first of all, I was going to this one place. I go in the office. He'd say, "Mind if I get stuff out of your dumpster? I'm an artist." Da, 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 da. Yeah, go ahead, help yourself. So then I was getting it for maybe a month or 2 months, you know. And I go back, it's gone. You know, the place is just not there. So I ask around, figure out what happened. Well, they were taking deposits and not doing the work, you know. So needless to say, they got busted.
Right.
And so that was the end of that. So then I moved to this other place, you know. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of them right around that area.
Mhm.
And I was getting stuff out of there. It was all fine. So I had them loading stuff on a pallet. And then I'd go there, and when I pull in with my truck, they just put it on the Kylo, dump it, put it right in my truck, you know. Well, that was going along fine, and then they switched foreman. So the guy that was doing it for me, he didn't like the new foreman, so he quit. So that was a done deal, because I'm sure the foreman ain't gonna let that happen no more. And then I went to this other guy. Well, he's got motorcycles and does cars and stuff. He knew me, and so now I still got that one. I can do anything I want, you know. He just help yourself, Ron, you know.
Right.
But I mean, I gotta do it, you know. Whatever. But I'm pretty much done with that now.
Right. I would imagine that this place looks pretty much like what you would call the heavy lifting is complete.
Right.
Like
yeah.
you don't have any other big plans for this place.
No,
right?
I can't do that no more. You know.
Right.
I mean, I used to be able to pick these up and flip them around, and you know.
Mm-hmm.
But not so much no more.
I don't know if I asked you this yet since we started, but how old are you now?
85.
Okay. Just wanted to
You know.
get that out in the cosmos. I'd like to timestamp this. So really, like the bigger reason that what I really love most about doing this show is documenting this culture.
Yeah, that is a good thing to do.
This history.
Because once it's gone,
That's
it's gone. The younger people aren't doing nothing. They don't want to do nothing, you know.
Yep.
And the older people are dying off.
Yep.
So.
No, man, I cherish guys like you and Dave Perowitz and Paul Cox was another. I know he's a bit younger than you guys, but another.
No, he's a very creative guy, and his leather work is superb.
It's
you know?
outrageous, man. I would say he's very much like you, a very Renaissance man. Does his own paint, does his own fab work, his leather work, just. Guys like you and him, man, they only come around once a generation.
Yeah.
You know? I mean,
well,
it's incredible.
I mean, a lot of people do what they do. I mean, they can be a painter, they can be a welder, they can be a fabricator or whatever. But I've got the gifts that I can do it all, you know.
Yeah.
And it's a great gift to have, you know.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, I wish I had even a quarter of it, you know.
Right.
But I documenting it is, I think, very important.
I agree.
I'm a real history nerd, and I think part of the problem with the world today is you can fill in the blank, but I don't want to get very political, but let's just say a lot of the, like we brushed on earlier, a lot of the political pitfalls of today. Show me fill in the blank political position, and I'll show you someone who doesn't know history.
Right.
I think history is very important.
Oh, I know.
For knowledge moving forward. And that's part of why I do this. I want to document our history, our culture.
The history now, I hope it never happens again, you know?
Right.
I mean, it's just so stupid, you know?
It's so crazy, man.
It is. I mean, how can anybody not know what's going on?
Yeah.
And believe the lies, you know?
It's the same playbook that's happened hundreds and hundreds of years over and over and over again.
Yeah.
But just different story. But
right.
We don't need to get involved in that.
No, I'll get mad.
No, I will too. I will too. But the point of me saying that is I think documenting history is very important, and this culture and the lifestyle you've lived for the last 60-something years, the lifestyle I'm living now, I think it's very important to document. And
Oh,
I,
yeah.
you know, I hope some, you know, the other thing is too, I want people to know about Ron Finch in 30 years from now and 50 years from
Right.
now. And this shit lives forever on the internet now. You
Right.
know, I want you to live forever. You know, I
Right,
want,
yeah.
you know,
I appreciate that, you
you know,
know.
in today's 15-second world,
Oh, you gotta have
shit
that
just gets fucking-
instant gratification.
yeah,
Well, it's not gonna be instant gratification, and you gotta work at something to achieve it.
yeah. There's a reason they give lifetime achievement awards.
Right.
There's that shit's not happening in 15
And I
minutes.
got a couple of them, but when I got them, I says, "Now wait a minute, it's lifetime. My life isn't over. I got a lot to do." You know. And they look at me, what?
What, Ron? What were some of the bigger achievements that you have been awarded? Like, do you remember the first time any of your bikes were in any of the museums around the world?
I was one of the very first to have bikes in museums.
A motorcycle in a museum?
Yeah.
Which was that?
It was DIA, which is Detroit Institute of Arts, you know.
Okay.
And it's a thing where it was kind of cool because there was a whole controversy. There was this woman that wrote for the Detroit News, you know, and every Sunday there was a article about art, you know, that was her job, you know. And so there was a whole controversy between motorcycles being in the museum because they're a kinetic thing compared to art, other art in the museum.
Mm.
So it was a thing where the artsy part people, you know, they didn't think motorcycles should be in there because they were motorcycles, you know.
Right.
And then the other part of the thing, people said they should because they, you know, there's paint, there's sculpture, there's, you know, they're a work of art. And so it would go back and forth for months. I was in there, well, 3 months. I had them in, and they were on turntables spinning around, you know.
Do you remember
And-
which bikes were in there?
Yeah, it was quite a cycle that I had in Odin's axle, you know.
Cool.
So and it was good, you know. And then I was in another one in Phoenix, Arizona, the Herd Museum, and they didn't know about motorcycles, so they had all these old women research motorcycles, and so they read books and whatever. There was like a team of them, you know. And so they, you know, there was like the Mammoth, you know, which was a very low production, there was one there. And there were dirt bikes, and you know, and then Von Dutch did a thing on it was a clear plastic thing. It was like 4x8 on the one side. It was a motorcycle on the other side. There was a woman, and her arms were like the front ends of the motorcycle, and you know, so you look at one side, it was the woman, the other side, it was thing.
I think
Yeah.
I remember that one.
It was.
Yeah,
it was
that's a
pretty cool.
very famous one.
Yeah, it was very cool.
I think I know that one. Yeah.
And so, and then, and I had, I think,
Obviously, it was
4 or
very
5
famous.
bikes there, you know.
Yeah.
And so the deal was, they had to pay my way there. Okay, that was no problem. And I also could drink, you know. So after 2 days, they come to me, Ron, you got to be buying rounds for the whole bar. No, it's just me and my guys, you know. And so then they cut me out. So it's okay. Well, now we're gonna have a new deal now. We're gonna be able to take the bikes out of the museum and go riding at night, and then put them back in the morning, you know.
Right.
They said okay, but they got to be back by 7 o'clock, back on their pedestals, you know. So we would ride.
And they didn't care how sober you were when you took those things out.
No, so basically we're out, you know, we'll be riding all night, but it's still hot.
Right.
I mean, that heat's still coming from the asphalt and so on and so forth. Then I broke an oil line, and it was a bike I just put together,
Right.
and it was, you know, it was rubber oil lines, and it just come off the oil tank. And I'm going down the road, sashaying along, and, you know, the easy fix, you know, just put it back on. So in the meanwhile, I'm out in the desert, and there's this anthill there, and I'm kicking it. You know, I don't know. It just seemed like the right thing to do. So now all these red fire ants are pulling up my pants, you know. So now I got my pants off, and I'm slapping myself, and I'm maybe, oh, I don't know, maybe 50 feet off the road. And all these cars are going by because I'm there with no pants on there, you know.
You took your pants off at this point?
Well, I'm slapping all the ants, you know. I got to get to them, you know. So that was that museum, you know. Get cut off from drinking, but I can ride my motorcycle, so it's okay. You know?
Right.
And so it was fun. And then the one guy I was there with, he was like, he could pick up women like that. Every night he'd have a different woman, you know.
Right.
And then the other guy, he was a boxer, you know, and he was cool, and it was fun. There's no doubt. You know,
Yeah.
I had a good crew, you know.
Yeah. That is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome. God damn, dude, I got so caught up in that story. I had a good question for you, and I totally fucking slipped my mind.
Yeah, it happens that way.
Yeah. God damn. Wow, I just lost it.
Yeah, you'll think of it.
Yeah.
For 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'll tell you what, if I do think of it, I know I can't text it to you.
Yeah, that ain't gonna work, you know.
Yeah, but oh god damn. So yeah, the museum thing, god damn. I don't know. Oh well. You got anything else you want to tell the public before we move to the glass room?
Yeah.
What do you got?
What I got? What?
What do you want to tell the public?
Well, I don't know.
Well, actually, getting back to the museum thing, what other like lifetime achievement stuff? Like you said, you had that was the first motorcycle that was in a museum, and there was big conversation about it. Like whether they should allow motorcycles in a museum or not. Do you remember the first time you met Indian Larry? When you speaking of like, there's two guys, two top tier guys that I look at motorcycles as art and functionality and all that is you and Larry.
It had to have been.
Remember the first time you met him?
No, it had to have been in New York. He was here a couple of times. They had this bike.
This property?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He and Billy Lane came out. There's this Boomers, and they have a bike night, big bike night, Thursday, tomorrow. If you're still here, we could go. But anyways, it was advertised that we were coming, you know.
Right.
So Larry's riding one of my bikes, Loophole, matter of fact,
Oh shit.
and he's still standing on the seat and going down the road.
On Loophole.
On my bike, you know, it's okay.
Holy
you know.
shit.
So we pull in, there was like, I don't know, a lot of people. You know, there's a whole row of people, like probably like 5, 7 deep. You know, we're pulling in this, it's a bar naturally, but there's a big parking lot. And you know, and everybody's cheering and yada, you know. And so, and then the other time that he was here, it was doing the biker build-off, and he came and he made a bracket for the carburetor and so on and so forth, and he just come to help me, you know, but they wouldn't put it on the biker build-off because Indian Larry and Ron Finch and, you know, that's ganging up on Jesse Rook that I went against, you know, so they wouldn't do it, you know.
So on
After
that,
he come all the way here,
on that Discovery Channel episode, something that the public never saw was Larry actually came here.
right there in the basement where we just were.
No shit.
Working on the bike with me, you know.
Wow.
And then Billy, he was here for the, you know, the bike night thing, you know.
Right.
And we had our own table and drinks and, you know, that Boomer supplied. And there was just constant people, autographs, you know.
Right.
And not bragging or complaining, but I've had to sign thousands, you know, at different events, you know.
Right.
Especially when I was on the biker build-off at that point, you know.
You were a celebrity at that time.
Yeah, you're right. And, you know, just do what I do. I don't care, you know.
Right, right.
And then, you know, and then we at the end of the biker build-off thing, we were in Vegas, and you know, staying at the Hard Rock Hotel, and you know, that was kind of cool, you know.
That was during the Jesse Rook one?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool, man. That is wild.
Yeah, it was cool, but
you want to end it here at the bar and
yeah, I'm running out of beer.
yeah, I know.
Yeah, I know where the refrigerator
That's
is.
what I was thinking. The fridge
You know.
isn't here. This bar needs a fridge. Actually, what are these things? I meant to ask you that. Is it just, you just fill this up with ice when you're having parties?
Yeah, you fill
just
them
for
up
the
with
parties?
ice. They come from Budweiser. Budweiser used to have these things, like they go to a park, we'll say, and there's some kind of an event. So they would take these things, and that would be the bar for Budweiser. And Sonny, you know,
Yeah,
my buddy,
we were talking.
he gave them. They were throwing them away,
Okay.
and so he, rather than throw them away, he brought them to me, you know.
Mm.
And that's how I got them. But they used to say Budweiser, and you know, and there was a different where that, we'll call it the roof, but you know, whatever.
Yeah.
It was multicolored things and was signed with Budweiser, you know.
Right. I like how you have the menu up here still too.
Yeah, that was coming back from.
It's hilarious.
That was coming back from Laconia, and we stopped at this restaurant. And, you know, I had to have the menu. You know.
That's awesome, man. Cool. Yeah, let's keep it moving, man. This property's huge.
Yeah. Okay. But then, yeah, I don't know if you saw the spring flower,
Oh yeah, we'll check that out.
but it's a real spring. And I'm going over here to pee.
Back in action here. In
So he's talking to Ruth? Supposed to be talking on the phone.
no, he's on the phone. Yeah.
Yeah. I can tell him to shut up.
No, he asked me. I said, no, you're fine. The music was just too much.
Hello, Sophie.
Yeah. Well, oh shit. What was that? Oh, that's we'll start this one off here. I think this thing's a little too low for me, but
there's all kinds of chairs.
Oh, we'll be all right. I'll just re-aim.
And it's not.
There we go. That's cool. No, what I wanted to ask you is, in my head, since I've been here, I've been calling this in my head the glass room.
Okay.
What do you call this little nook?
Nothing. It's just there, you know.
Right. It's just, you guys never had a name for this little.
No. I mean, it's not a bad name, because it's definitely glass and it is a room, you know. So it's not wrong.
Right. You want to tell people the story of what it took to build this?
Yeah. First of all, I went to this seminar. They had a Frank Lloyd Wright house in Oklahoma City. And it was a bachelor's house, and it was a straight wall with its glass. And then there was a bar in front of the wall, and it was lit from the behind, and also the outdoor one was lit behind. And I saw pictures of it, and it was really cool. And so we got the glass from Pittsburgh Plate Glass in Mount Vernon, Ohio. And at the time, it was just scrap. But what happened is they'd build the glass or make the glass in these vats, and then it would get impurities in the vats, and then they'd have to air hammer it out. And once they air hammer it out, it was just scrap. And so you could buy it for $18.50, but then the trucking was quite expensive to bring it all the way from Mount Vernon. And then it was a thing like, you know, if you're laying rock or block or brick or whatever, it absorbs some of the moisture out of the mortar. Well, this doesn't do nothing. I tried wiring it out, tried all kinds of different things, propping it so that we could do more. And so as it is, you can only have one layer at a time, you know, which took all summer to do it. And I had this guy that was working with me, and we had scaffold on the outside and the inside both, so we could scrape it as we went. And it was a thing where a lot of times he would I would have to give him a little direction as far as which way the rocks would go, because it looks better with less mortar than more mortar, because it gives you more of a solid look. And so now they're recycling it, you know. They're not, and so now
They started recycling
yeah,
these glass blocks that we see
yeah
that they used to make available.
Right. Well, now you can't get them.
Not available anymore.
And so there's places around Ohio that are selling it for people for their fish tanks or garden or whatever. But each one of those that are about this size is like $75 each, you know.
Right.
And so they've got kind of a museum-ish kind of thing where the plant used to be, and they were advertising that there was a rock or a glass river, and so we went there, and it's I got more stuff than they do. It's a thing where they would, you know how you break car glass or whatever, and it's a bunch of little pieces when it breaks. Well, it's that's the kind of the river, and then there's a few chunks of this scattered through. So I assume people are stealing it, because the pictures that I saw of it before I went there, it was pretty much a solid river and looked pretty cool. Right. And so, some of the old buildings are left, and they have different events there, like in a building they'd have a wedding or whatever, you know. So. Mount Vernon, Ohio.
Do you think this is the largest collection of this glass that's left in the world?
It could be, you know.
Right.
And I had a lot more. And at the time, somebody'd come over. You want a piece of the rock? Go right ahead, you know, take it, you know. Right. But if I caught somebody stealing it, that was a different story, you know.
Right.
All you gotta do is ask.
Right.
Don't be a thief.
I did notice when we were walking around the property, you do have like garden beds with this stuff, and there's you have extra glass, right. You know.
Well, originally I had this tower in the old shop, and it was like 3 walls, you know, and there was all in that, and then the corners of the old shop was all this glass, you know, and then Ruth's office, which was the most of us, it was a corner, and then both sides of the corner was all glass, and it was kind of shaped on a radius. It looked really cool.
Right.
But when we did it, we didn't know, because where I saw the pictures, Frank Lloyd Wright deal, that was in Oklahoma City, and they don't have the drastic climate change like we do. So we did it anyways, and it worked. So then we tore this all down, brought it over here with, you know, trailers and pickup trucks and stuff, and there was a big pile of it down there, and I couldn't find anybody to put it back up. The guy that originally put it up, he was going through a divorce, and he had the kids, and then he tried to bring the kids out. That ain't working. The kids are running all over. He's trying to work, and, you know, it just, and I painted his drag bike, and he went to Bonneville and so on and so forth, and naturally he's in his motorcycle more than laying glass. I mean, I get it.
Right.
But anyways.
Speaking of that, was Frank Lloyd Wright an inspiration to you artistically?
To a degree.
I love his architecture.
I did too. And there was this friend of mine, actually, he did the little hands on
on those clamps, on all the cables and stuff?
And,
yeah.
You know, and so anyways, I was there visiting him in that river, or house I think it's called, where the river goes underneath the house. And it's in Pennsylvania. And so I went through that, you know, on a tour. And I mean, some of that is really cool, you know?
Yeah.
And then the different things.
Ron, that's incredible too that you point those hands out. It's like many of your builds, much of your art, this whole building really. I've probably looked at that bike 5 times today, and I never noticed those.
Right.
It's like I could come back here 5 times and just
Right.
see all new stuff every time.
Mm-hmm.
It's fucking wild, man. Do you pride yourself on more of the smaller details, or when you're building something, are you more into like the larger silhouette?
Well, that's actually how I start. I start with a silhouette,
Uh-huh.
and then as the build goes on, then you start getting the detail, you know?
Okay. Right. Just totally off topic. What have been your favorite years in this industry? Or let's say a decade or
Probably-
something, you know?
I think it was 72 when I moved to the new shop. The old shop was just very small, and so I worked with this architect, friend of mine, and he was a teacher at this place, Lawrence Tech. It's a college, and there was 32 kids in his class. So I would go down to the class and not literally teach the class, but I told them, okay, I've got this, 5 3/4 acres, and there's a hill on it, and so on and so forth. So that was the class project. So all the kids would go out there. Okay, some of them would just build a building like a storefront building. This one guy did a cool thing. I had a moat, it was like almost like a castle. We have a price range, but it was okay. He did it. And then there was, other ones where they bored it into the side of the hill like an underground place. And so there's 32 different kids, and I told them, okay, I need a paint room, I need a welding room, I need a paint prep room, I need a showroom, I need a warehouse for the parts, and so on and so forth. So they had to incorporate all that into the building, and so it was pretty cool. Joe Wolf, the professor, he already had it drawn, but nevertheless we took in the kids, and naturally I had to vote for him as far as which was the best,
Right.
and I went for the moat. It was pretty cool,
Yeah.
and so that gave the students some knowledge of how to build something, and I mean the storefronts, that's a joke, but that was their ability,
Right.
so, but it was a very cool thing, and so as it was, we built the building, back on the property, so it wasn't right on the main roads, and it worked out.
Right. What about like motorcycle wise? Like, what has been your favorite decade of
Probably,
your favorite decade of building custom motorcycles?
probably 70s.
Yeah.
That was basically the peak. I mean, a lot of people were building bikes then, and then with the TV programs, even though some of them were phonies, but whatever.
A lot of BS there.
But but it was a thing where there was a lot of people because of the TV. Oh, they can do that. I'm going to start my little motorcycle shop and build the bikes.
Yeah.
And well, so they didn't realize this actually worked to build a bike, and you got if you're working with an employee, you got to be able to make it happen,
Right.
So that was probably the best time, though.
Yeah. Of the 70s, was the bike building the best, or was like the scene the best? Was the partying the best? Like, what was your favorite part of the 70s?
Well, basically, I partied for a long time, so just another party is not that big a deal to me,
Right.
I mean, I've always been able to party whenever I feel like it, so.
Right.
But I mean, there was some good parties, don't get me wrong, big bonfires, and, it was just good.
Yeah.
And I'd be sleeping on the ground underneath my bike, because
Right.
didn't want to drive home drunk,
Right.
But that was then, and, so, a little older now, so I maintain better,
Right. I guess that's almost a silly question to ask Ron Finch.
Well, I'll give you a silly answer then.
Well, what I mean by that is like your life has been a big fucking party.
Oh yeah.
I mean, really, your life is a fucking party, man.
Right. Well, I've been it's nice to have the talent, which is a gift to have the talent.
Right.
To be able to work in a restaurant. I just did a American flag that's on layers and stuff for a restaurant, and then the guy owns another restaurant. Now he wants me to do another one for that restaurant, and I'm working on a Mexican restaurant now, and sometimes I get a free lunch.
Right. Right. I could tell you like your free meals.
Right.
I could
Yeah.
tell.
Well, I don't want to lose no weight over the deal, that's for sure.
Well, I mean, for the audience, obviously I wasn't recording or whatever, but I mean, just talking about barbecue later. Like,
Right.
Well,
We're going.
Yeah, we're going. But in terms of that too, in terms of your career, do you enjoy this is kind of a layered question. Do you enjoy the bike building more or the art building more?
I like building the bikes when I had my crew, because I had different people. This guy would do metal finishing, this guy would sand, and so on and so forth. And so I could create a bike much better and get it done.
More efficiently.
Well, so now, if it's not that I can't do it by myself, but it takes a long time, and there's certain things I don't like sanding. I love painting still. I love the finished product. And so, without my people, it was the Finchmen.
Right.
And then the bad part is the younger people, they don't really care about no motorcycle or custom motorcycle. And the older people, they're dying off. So it's like kind of a bad time for building bikes right now.
Right.
I just got done doing this one here. It's a CVO. We can take a picture of the fairing. It's over there on the table there.
I did earlier, and video when you were showing me
Okay,
and stuff.
and
Yeah.
so it was a thing where the guy came in. He had the dealership tear the bike apart. He brought me the pieces. He wanted flames and skulls, which is okay. Nothing wrong with it. But being a brand new bike of that style,
Yeah.
it was a thing where it was, he would have been better off leaving me alone.
Right. Right. Have you always enjoyed the paint the most of all of it?
Yeah, well, I like to look at the finished product.
Right.
I mean, after it's done, okay, not that I'm bragging or complaining, but I did that. I accomplished that.
Right.
And I try to, anything I do, I try to not repeat myself. It's got to be different, from something before. Sometimes I'll use a little bit of that and a little bit of this, to create whatever.
Right.
But it's still different,
Right. Has the technology, like in paint development and spray guns and all that stuff?
Oh, it's way better,
Yeah.
When I started with lacquer, which, it dried fast and so on and so forth, but the guy had to rub it out and so on and so forth and sand it, Now with the new era things, if you got a good gun, you can just spray it. It'll be glossy. You don't have to rub it, nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And plus the durability, plus the RV factor, it's just better.
Yeah, for sure. Do you actually? I never asked you this. Do you personally have a favorite over the years of all of your builds, or art pieces, for that matter? Really.
There's some that I don't like because I listen to the customer.
Right.
For the most part, I mean, I've been riding Ring and a Prayer. I really like that bike just because it's the one I ride the most miles, It's been had to get rebuilt a couple of times but Finicky is one of my favorite bikes. It's got more going on than a lot of them, And and naturally, when the bike is new, you're out riding it, breaking it in and, So that's probably my favorite bike at that time.
Right.
But as far as the whole total picture, I don't know, it changes, you know.
Right, right. One of the things that I think makes you a great builder, separating you from a lot of the other, let's say, more artsy, artistic, like show builders, is I think something people would be surprised at is how many miles you put on these fucking bikes.
Right.
I mean,
Well,
you could just see like a lot of the,
right, and
these
that
bikes
really,
have miles on
it
them.
really pisses me off. Oh, you can't ride that. Bullshit, let's go for a ride, punk.
Right.
Let's
Right.
go play, you know?
Right, right. Even today, I was surprised. You're like, let's take this thing for a ride, you know? I was,
Right.
okay, let's go.
Right,
you
yeah.
know, like,
And, you know, we were just getting around rush hour, and rush hour is really bad, you know?
yeah, yeah.
So it was a short ride, but it was a good ride.
Yeah,
You know?
no, it was awesome, man. It was,
Any ride's a good ride.
yeah. Man, I got so many questions, but I don't know. I feel like we covered so much at the bar. I don't want this to fall too flat. I feel like all my good questions are used up. Is there anything else you'd like to say about your career, or like?
Well, all I know
Is there a real highlight of your career, a real standout? Like, you've been in a lot of museums at this point. You've won a zillion awards. Like you were even saying before, Lifetime Achievement Awards, and I mean this place is just stacked with all kinds of stuff. Is there a particular thing in here that's like?
I'm in the Hall of Fame. Can't forget that one.
Right. Sturgis Hall of Fame, right?
Sturgis, yeah. That was a good one. You know, that was my latest. You know?
Right. I think Chris Callan inducted you, right? Was it?
No, but he's elected now, that he might be in it.
Yes. I don't know why. I thought when I was talking to him, he'd say.
No, it was actually Sugar Bear.
Oh, Sugar Bear inducted you.
Right.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Have you ever used any of his front ends on your builds?
No, I've never. Well, I've never did that kind of front ends. You know, and they got really good front ends.
Mm-hmm.
They handle. I've rode with them, and I mean we're riding, and you can go that baby around, just go right around the parking lot and out the street, no problem whatsoever. You know.
Yeah.
It's just the engineering that he's got in it, you know.
Yeah. One of my friends has a chopper with a Sugar Bear front end on it. He describes it best. It's like having a chopper with power steering.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of that, front ends, man. The Finch front ends back in the day. I heard like a wild statistic of like how many you were selling at one time.
It was 125 every month.
Every month.
That's as long as I had a machine shop making them, you know, under my direction.
Yeah.
And that's the most we could make, you know.
Damn.
And they would sell. I had boxes, and I had different lengths, and I had ones with grooves, was the most of them. That was the most popular one. Some smooth legs, and then I had the Aladdin shoe rockers, and there was another rocker that I came out with. It's kind of a pointy thing, whatever. And when I first started, they were quarter inch wall, you know, which is overkill. But I like overkill, you know.
Right.
And then the Japs started making their front ends, and they were less money. And then it was just a thing where I'm not cheap in mine. I believe in quality, you know.
Yep.
And I believe that you can ride that front end for miles and miles. And them other ones, you get a chuckle and it's going to bend. I mean, they were junk, you know.
Yep.
But they were cheaper. Yeah, well, there you go. Buy something cheap, you know.
Right.
And I'm a little prejudiced anyways, you know.
Yeah. I'm also assuming one of the things you've always prided yourself on is all 100% American-made products.
Right.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and I'm still that way, you know.
Yeah.
And that's the reason I say I'm prejudiced, I'll tell you, you know.
Right. And I mean, I don't know. Let's face it. I didn't do the normal intro I do on a lot of shows. I'll do that separately. But one of the things I only take on sponsors that support American and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, there's a fucking difference. I mean, especially in this market.
Oh yeah, I mean
you can't beat it.
I mean, some of them
100% American made.
Some of them products almost fit a Harley.
Mm-hmm.
but they don't.
I know. They've moved to Mexico and everywhere else.
Right.
Yep. Yeah. I got another. Well, I don't know. I keep thinking of weird questions for you, but do you have a memorable road trip that you've done on any of these bikes? Like,
Well, I used
did
to
you
ride.
used to-
I used to ride to Sturgis all the time, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And that was always, we'd always take the back roads, you know.
Yeah.
And we'd go up through the UP and Minnesota that way. I hate expressways, and especially like 80, 90, boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
So you're better off, you know, out in the boonies, so to speak. And they were always good, you know. And when I first started riding to Sturgis, it was me and 3 other guys. And we'd never had Everclear before, and we're sipping down the road, and you know, and it was great. And people at the time, they would not believe we're from Michigan riding our motorcycles to South Dakota. You know, that's crazy. And there was a few girls around. That's another issue. But anyways, it was you know, it was great. And you could drag race right downtown. You know, sleep in the park for free, and you know. I can't tell you exactly what year it was, but it was around 59 or around there, you know. And I had my BSA with one of my banana seats, which had that much padding, you know, but I don't care. I was riding my motorcycle. But then you come into some towns, you're the scum of the earth, you know, good low rent biker, and then you've got to leave now, get out of our town. We don't want your kind around here.
Right.
And, you know, so that was that era. Well, now bikers got more respect than back then, you know.
Different era.
And, you know, I had my sleeping bag, it'd be raining or whatever. We're there alongside the road sleeping, you know. And then we'd sometimes be on a park at a picnic table and the cops would come by and shine their lights, you know. You could see, you gotta see, I can't leave with them, you know, headlights. Okay, but the crack of dawn, you guys gotta leave now, you know?
Yeah.
And they were there at the crack of dawn. Time to go, boys. You know, so that's just part of it, you know? I mean, I know a little bit about harassment, you know? And I also can deal with it, you know?
Right. Yeah, that's fucking wild times, man.
Right.
Yeah. Was that always your favorite trip of the year, with Sturgis?
Yeah, it was a good ride, you know?
Yeah, different days.
Yeah.
All right, man. One last question, and then we got to get to this barbecue.
Right.
Do you remember your first ride on a motorcycle? Remember the first time you personally rode a motorcycle?
No. I started with a Cushman Eagle in 1951 that I bought used. And I saved my money for my paper route and bought a 54, which had chain drive rather than belt drive. It was better. And it was pretty crazy because my parents didn't really want me having a scooter, you know. So they waited till about October. And they said, okay, Ron, you can get a car or you can get a motorcycle or a scooter. And so they think that, oh, Mrs. Finch's little boy Ronnie's got enough brains to buy a car, you know. And so I'm riding all winter long through this slop and sledding, freezing, but, well, I was, you know, 16 at the time, I mean.
Yeah.
And so that was my first thing. And then I got a 52 BSA 650. It had a plunger frame, you know. And that was, I got a little peanut tank, and I had an aluminum fender and a donkey dick tail light, and, you know, that was my bike, you know. But I had this guy paint it, you know, and he charged me, I don't know, it was like $200 or something, which is a lot of money. And I prepped it my own self. And so at that point, that's when I started painting. You know, I mean, if he can do it, I can do it, you know.
Right.
And so I did, you know.
Right.
And it was a black pearl paint job, I remember it, you know. And it was my new bike, you know, and I ride all over, you know.
Yeah. What was the first Harley you ever had?
It was a KHK. Again, I have my time recollection, and I don't know. I know it was red.
Yeah.
And I know there was this Hill 90, and people would go out there and climb the hill, and so I sold the bike, and I kind of take it for the last ride, So I go up the hill 90, it's Sunday morning early, nobody around. I get about partway up the hill, lay the bike down, it catches on fire. I'm taking my leather jacket, beating the fire out, fried some of the wires, got it back together, rode back to my house, had to repaint it when it was fried. So the guy comes over to pick up the bike. And so, ex-wife, I told her we don't know where the title is. So he comes in, here, have a beer. Where's that title? Nobody's fessing up to the title. And so then it's out, the sun shines drying, When he left it, the paint was still soft. Never saw him or the bike again, So that taught you a lesson. If you sell it, don't ride it.
Right. Oh my God. Okay, I know I said last question, but I told you Rick, the photographer, he would kill me if I didn't ask this. What was whatever you want to talk about, but what was your relation to Yosemite Sam, or like what was your friendship?
Okay, well, we were both.
Do you remember the first time you met him, or like
Yeah.
what was it like hanging with Yosemite Sam?
Well, he was a good one. He used a lot of Bondo. Rather than, I always took pride in myself. I take sheet metal and weld it and grind it and try not to use Bondo.
Right.
He was just the opposite. He would just have gobs of Bondo, and Sam and his brother Jim worked on it. And they were in a shop down on 5 Mile, which was not the greatest neighborhood, but no matter. And so they would sculpture whatever out of Bondo, and the finished product looked good,
Yeah.
It's just that they were Bondo and I was steel, and they always had the same paint job. He would take overlays and overlays,
Mm-hmm.
and that was his style. And there was a lot of people that liked it, and it was fine, It was a lot of different colors, and looked good. And he didn't really do much pinstriping. Where to me, if you got a design, it's got to have a stripe.
To accent that.
Yeah, to break.
To work with that.
Yeah, to break up between the two.
Right. To really make a bike flow.
Right.
That finish. Even I would imagine too. Even the way like a bike like Loophole here, like even the way you do the fade from the neck to the main piece to the purple into the round rod.
Right.
I mean that's all by design
Right.
to get that bike to flow.
And this was one of the last bikes that I did. I didn't know how to make a whole frame.
Mm-hmm.
So what I would do is I would cut the thing just above the top front motor mount and the back transmission. So I'd have that cradle, and then I could, build it there.
Right.
And so at that point I designed this, and I took it to this place and had it machined, and it was my design, but I had to take a piece of aluminum because it was a tracer, and so they would follow my pattern to cut this whole thing out,
Right.
And so it was, and then naturally it's got to fit what you started with,
Right. What you're grafting it to.
So
Yeah.
it was, and so then I figured out, if I make a fixture, and then I can mount the engine, the trans, and the front end, and then once you got that, you can do whatever,
Right. Wow, that's wild. This was the last bike you did that with, huh?
Right.
Like an actual factory Harley cradle.
Right, yeah.
Wow. That is so cool. Well, fuck, man. Let's get some barbecue. Is there anything you want to tell?
I don't want to lose no weight over this deal.
No. I don't want you to lose a single pound. Don't you be telling anyone that this is a fucking diet podcast. This is not a diet show.
Right.
Is there anyone like? This is basically a question I ask everyone. Where could people reach you? But in your case, I don't know if you want people reaching.
No, I'm pretty.
This is just an exclusive deal.
I do have a website. I don't go on it myself. My wife does,
They can still buy your apparel though. They can still buy shirts and stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I just do what I do,
Right. All right.
And you know, like there's gonna be bike nights coming up in Lapeer here pretty quick.
Right.
I'll be up there a few times. I've got a little art gallery up there where my stuff will be. Not my gallery, but you know, the guy gets his percentage, but it's right there. And you know, there's there'll be good bands and so on and so forth, and I'll be around.
Okay.
And you know, and I go to Wasion and I go to Laconia, or well, not lately, but anyways, like there. With the Catskill Mountains, I do go. I've been there 13 years in a row every year, you know.
Oh yeah, the Catskills are beautiful.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Me and you obviously love the Catskills.
You know, and I mean, that riding is just, you know, you're riding up the mountain, down the mountain, there's waterfalls, and, you know, and there's very few cars because it's in the mountains, so there's no big town around, and I love that place, you know.
Yeah. That's really where my heart is at, is the Catskills, man.
Right, yeah.
But so yeah, I guess if someone wants to
They
have a piece of art, if you know, kind of thing.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
I've got cards out there, and you know, you can contact, you know, through go on the web, you know, which I don't do, but
And just hope it happens.
you know, if it happens, it happens. If not, I'll just keep on keeping on.
Yeah, buddy. All right, Ron. Awesome. Let's get to dinner, man. Thank you so much,
Okay,
Ron.
thank you.
This has been an absolute honor, a pleasure.
Yeah.
And I appreciate it.
Yeah,
You're the man, Ron. Thank you.
Yeah.
And see you guys next week.
Yeah.